So the machlekes of Korach, he focused on the mitzvah of tzitzis, and he said that the talis, that is all tcheles, surely doesn't need tzitzis. If one thread of tcheles can exempt and make kosher an entire garment, so surely a garment that's entirely of tcheles exempts itself, doesn't need the thread. So what's this connection between this, the pnimius and his machlekes against the kohuna of Aaron being Kohen Gadol? The answer is that what? No, that what did Korach want? Korach was right, but he was ahead of his time. He wasn't willing to do the work to get there. And that is that Korach wanted that since the Leviim, Lasid Lavai will be Koyanim, they'll be higher than the Koyanim. Why? What was in the Kudah? Why Lasid Lavai will the Leviim dominate? Because then what? Sorry? I don't hear. Yeah, the mile of Gevurah will be revealed, the mile of Tzimtzum of the Helam. So the Ikki will be, the Ikki Chidush will be the Gevurah, and Chesed, where Hashem is revealed. That's nice, but that's be secondary. When Gevurah is revealed as being godly, that's more than nice. So therefore, he wanted to have now, he's a Levi, and he wanted to make the Levi the Ikki. Therefore, he argued against the Kun of Aaron, which is Chesed. Kohen is a Ish Chesed. Now that's the connection, therefore, to the Talis. Because Tcheles being a blue color is the inyan of Gevurah, and it shouldn't need any threads. What are the threads? If you want to fill in the blanks, please do. The threads are what? They're Amshachas. If they're Amshachas, then they are Chesed. We don't need that. We don't even need a Tcheles thread, because a Tcheles thread is what? It's still Chesed, but in Kli Gevurah, but it's the Eira Chesed in Kli Gevurah. Because the whole thing of a chut, of a thread, is Amshacha. And in brackets he adds that he was mistaken. Shoga Baraya, he erred in his vision, because this Hanhaga, correct, it's true, but it's only after Shleimus HaBerurim, where the Yetzer Hara, who is a result of Tzimtzum and Gevurah, becomes transformed. Then we can have the mile of Gevurah, of course. But now, if we're not going to elevate the Nefesh HaBahamis and just elevate him, then there'll be a Nikkel Chitzonim. It's going to go in the wrong place. The Chais will go in the wrong place. So therefore, it has to be Chesed now until we get there. And Gevurah has to be subordinate to Chesed. We have to illuminate. We're going to get down, be Mamshech Chutim, and illuminate the world, starting with the Nefesh HaBahamis. And therefore, now another point you said, in addition to the fact, so you don't need Chutim because the Amshachas, he argued against the whole idea of Chutim of Tzitzis for another reason. You know what was the second argument, the final point of the Ois? Why the Leviim had to shave the hair off their body in their induction to the service. V'aviru sar, which is a strange commandment, considering how sacred the beard is. Because the Levi is already what? Gevurah. We don't want Gevurah on top of Gevurah. Chesed, a chut is Amshacha, but it's a very limited Amshacha. So since it's already the end of Gevurah, we don't need further Gevurahs. They'll be inappropriate, and therefore the hair has to be removed, because hair is a chut, it's that small, minuscule, small revelation. So there shouldn't be thinking of more Sayrus and Tzimtzum. Sayrus meaning hair, Tzimtzum, contracted revelation. So therefore, B'chalal, we don't need thinking of Sayrus and Chut Yatzitzis. And he added, and then in the brackets, he added in square brackets, and Moishe told him, no, that the way that to bring down the loftiest revelation that cannot be any other way but other than through chutin, in order that it illuminate the world. Okay, that's where we're up to. So now continuing. However, al pi anal, in light of the above, in light of the above, that this whole machlekes is that he wants now Gvura to be dominant in of Levi. Good, so we understand why he's opposing Aaron, Chesed. But tzarich lovin lama chalak leirak al konas Aaron shebimchinas chachasodim elagam al Moishe shoya melech. So why is he opposing Moishe was a melech? Harin yone shel hamelech obchinas hagvura. The union of melech is gvura. Which is pashat the pshat. I mean, the king rules. It's all about rules. It's all about gvura. It's all about governance, and governance is all about very strict rules and, in fact, enforcing them if necessary. So it's gvura. The halal, the only of malchus is dibur. So dibur is produced through the contraction of the curl, which is pashut, through the 5 organs of speech, to produce the word, etc. So there you see it. And in every expression of malchus, it's gvura. So what does he want from Moishe Rabbeinu? That's your Indian. And Moishe is a Levi, so all is good. Another shaila. He said a talus that is all tcheles. The lechaira, we just said, he should have addressed chutin altogether, period, even of a white talus. His time that we don't want more tzimtzumim. Yechelali is gam get a talus shekoli love, and the same argument could be in a white talus. He wants gevura, so we don't need that small amshachas thereafter. If gevura dominates the mile of gevura, enough message tzimtzum. A tzimtzum on that would be counterproductive. So why is he only arguing about chutin on a talus shekoli tchelis? He should be arguing on chutin altogether, which is amshachas, since he's promoting and advancing the mile of gevura. Yeah. Yeah, we're on the same page. Beis. Understand this by prefacing that which is explained elsewhere. The elsewhere is the Rebbe Sichas himself. They don't give any other matter mokim. Binyan time is Korach. Everybody is holding Madua Tisnasal Kal Hashem. Yeah, this is a famous sikha. Chelik Beis and Chelik Dalet mainly. Chelik Dalet should know. Chelik Dalet, the first halakim are very elemental, and Chelik Dalet befrat, the sikhas of Shlach and Korach and Dirib Tachtonim are very elemental. The mama's foundational sikhas everybody has to learn. And say Dafka because Korach follows after the whole Tainis and Maraglim, so it's the whole Hemshech and the articulation, the clear articulation of the Kavanah, which was unfolding then. It was a learning curve. So what was his time there? And he said, Madu tisnasal kal Hashem. Why do you exalt yourself? So the Shail is, you're also exalted. You're a Levi. You're a Levi. You have a position of eminence. Kulam Kedoshim. So what's the time then? And moreover, he asked there that he also wants to be a Kohen Gadol. Well, isn't that not exalted? He wants everybody to be a Kohen Gadol, but still, that's exalted. So what's the time Madur Tisnasu? The answer is there's 2 kinds of isnasus. Shetainas Korach Lois Mnegil Isnasus Stam Anasiyu Stam. He understands you need leadership, people that are more knowledgeable and more experienced and more spiritual and so on. He understands you need that. Doesn't want to abolish the whole idea of a mashpia and a teacher. You need isnasus. And in brackets, yeah, it's umagam And especially considering he obviously is not against Nasias, when we consider well, Ma'agam, and what also, when we consider that, Shachamish Messiah Mish, starts with Bimchalekes Korach, and 250 people that joined him, the CIA, that they were leaders. So that's not his contention. Elarak b'negei is nasas ben yoni kedusha. This doesn't say so much over there in the Sikh. It's a bit different, but I don't know. He says, what's the answer? What's the? It's kedusha. In other words, you need it for life. For life, you need experience and leaders and guides, etc. Obviously, others would be total anarchy. It has to be leadership. But when it comes to kedusha, everybody has a shaykhis. That's his taina. Okay, I'll tell you what it says in the Sikhs there is that it's the same thing. They tell us to look at those Sikhs, that this essential isnasus, a relative isnasus, yeah, okay, you know more than me, you're older, more experienced, we need guidance. But this isnasus of malchus, of the way Moishe Rabbeinu, and also by Aaron, that is not just for practical purposes, because again, more knowledgeable, more experienced, more elevated, more righteous, more pious. It's an essential isnasus. Zois loy, we're all neshamas, we're all equal. We don't need that essential removedness. That was his time. Untouchable. No one's untouchable. So I don't know if he means it here, l'chayra. That's what he says over there. L'chayra, this is the general intent here in this Maimon. L'rak b'negiel yisnasas bring the kedusha. When it comes to kedusha, k'may yisnasas shel Aaron, like Aaron's elevation, shazen nemar, vayibodel Aaron lakdisha kedesh kadosha. And he separated this idea of separation, fundamentally being removed, to be separated, kedesh kadoshim, the holy of holies. The alzeh taina, and here was the taina. Kikole the kolam kedushin, but he is holy. In kedusha itself, you don't need this removedness, this caste system. Hierarchy. So therefore, understand also the taina against Moishe. Vapizeh yeshtavai masha Korach cholak. He's gimel, yeah. Everybody's with me? Guys, yeah, okay, guys in the Zoom. Frozen in time. Yeah. Yeah. Yankee, welcome back. Amen. And we have Talmidim. Oh, wow. Okay. So we understand also the machlekes of Vayikach was cholak loylak aloyrak al Aaron should begin as a chasadim elagam al Moishe, not just Aaron, which is the need of chesed. Elagam al Moishe after Yemelch, even though he was a king and melech shen yonei gvura. Why? Let's see. Kemachlekes shel Korach al malchus shel Moishe lo yehesem mitzad etzem min ha'isnasus bemalchus isnasus stam. You need governance, you need leadership. That's understandable, and that wasn't his quarrel. You don't need in the inyan of malchus. There's this isnasus in kedusha. That again, same thing. You don't need this in the world of kedusha. This kind of aloofness, of removedness. Kemuvim is where do we see? I'm frankly not so clear on this, but l'chayr. Kemuvim is shemosh. What's kemuvim? That in Malchus there's this nasos in kedusha. Kemuvim is shemosh nesamelch b'shemen hamishcha. The king is anointed with the anointed oil, and this v'ara mishicha b'shemen hamishcha should mean akdusha. The oil is sacred. You're not allowed to reproduce it, replicate it. And this appointment is not just for practicality, for governance, but it's kedusha. The kohenim were anointed with this oil and the vessels in the base of Mikdash. Hence, Here's where it's a little bit fuzzy. L'chein afshin malchus and bechinas hagvura. So malchus is gevura, and that's what he wants. Problem here is not malchus and kedusha. Adam said kedusha should be in a malchus. Since it's in the world of kedusha, this is a chesed malchus. Korach. It will be pure gevura with no problem with it. It's not so clear here. Let's unpack it again. What did he say in the previous ois? Please, everybody participate. The previous ois, he explained, you yourself are a leader. So what's the taina? Yeah, but not in kedusha, you don't need leadership. Now, on the other hand, he wants to make gevura the ikar. It's not a leadership inyan per se. Gevura the ikar. But you're not dismissing leadership altogether. So what's your taina against Moishe? What's your taina against Moishe? Rabbeinu says is the inyan of gevura. It's not the same as Aaron. It's not the same. That's what Rashi has in common with Aaron. What he says in his taina against Aaron, in his taina against Moishe, it comes down to its chesed, because it comes down that it's the same thing. He says apizeh, it's one thing. What's the taina against Moishe? That his nasus, even though it's gevura, but since it's in kedusha, it's really chesed. That is a shaykh min chasad. Okay, well, I understand that exactly. I don't know if this is correct or not. He's saying basically still too nice, Moshe Rabbeinu. It's a chesed inyan. You're not championing the inyan of gevura. I'm just thinking aloud. So the taina against Aaron, because before he said, this is the question here. Why do you have to bring in the inyan of his nasas in his taina against Aaron? He's chesed, finished. That's the end of the story.
Right. Where do we have taina against Aaron? I understand the question.
Before he explained that the taina against Aaron was your chesed, he's championing gevura. Honest? Yeah, that was all. That's what he said. That was the whole thing. In the middle of the first ois. What's his whole machlekes is? So machlekes is a war against chesed, because he wants to champion gevura. Must speak. Huh? Huh? So what is it? I'm asking. Ois base. But I just thinking it aloud. Alpizeh Yuvam, why he says Matut is naso. When he himself was bisnasos, the answer to that is, but your gevura, that's good. He doesn't want the isnasos of Adam, which is chesed. Why isn't that the answer to the first paragraph on his base? Moishe is a different inyan, because he is gevura. The answer that's going to be, yeah, but it's a chesed gevura. That's what it should be. It's not what he says. He adds in his taina against Adam, because you don't need isnasos in kedusha, but we don't have to get into the whole subject of isnasos. The problem with Aaron is your chesed, and you dominate. I'm going to make gevura dominate. Something is not clear here. Unless we're going to say that like there's two aspects to his taina against Aaron, which would explain, therefore, also the taina against Moishe. Even though Moishe is gevura, but the problem is that the way it is now, it's in a way of chesed. But he could have said that without the Ois Gimel could have been stated without Ois Beis. Why is he kvetching that he's not against governance altogether so much? He's only vayibodel, this very high thing. We're just walking it through. So therefore, if there would be, So if there would be leaders, but not in the way of isnasas mamish, and their chesed, it would be okay. But because there's such isnasas, that's what makes them dominate. Oh, putting the two things together. Because of Vayibodel Ara Lakdisha, so chesed is ruling the roost. If it wouldn't be Lakdisha, there's room for him. Moishe Rabbeinu being a melech, which is shaykh l'chasodim, if it wouldn't be way of his nasos, it'd also be a rule for him. But he didn't kvetch this nasi, he kvetched the kedusha, because the kedusha component makes it chesed. So it's a combination of both. Anyway, to think it through further. All right, let's go further. To think it through further. Eis Dalet would probably help pick up all the Makedas. Not probably, definitely. Okay. We asked before that explaining that the Levium had to have all their hair shaven because since the yin of Gevurah, so you don't want Gevurah on top of the Gevurah. Rabbi, you just want the Gevurah to be illuminated as being the deepest revelation of godliness. You don't want to conceal that. So he's against Hamshachas altogether, Chutin. So why is it only against a talus of Kulit Cheles? So in light of the Bible, understand it. Only against a talus of Cheles, but not one that is white. Because, okay, this is Mamash Behemshech. Kirchut Cheles Betzitzis. He's going to explain why. The blue thread of tzitzis, ubedugmas is nasa shagdusha. So again, his war is against elevation in the world of kedusha, not stam governance. Shedaf kal zeh chol hakoirach, that was his whole dispute. Mashenkin chuti lovam betzitzis. So the threads of the white threads, that is elevation. Stam, bedugmas is nasa stam. That is just practical leadership, which he was not against, which he will now explain. The blue represents Kedusha and the white is Stam. Shazeh Hiskim Gam Korach, that Korach was in agreement with, that you need to have, a system of governance. So therefore his tiny is only on the Chutei Tcheles, because Tcheles, as opposed to Lovan, represents Kedusha, and Lovan is Stam, as he's going to explain. White cheles represents kedusha and the ordinary white wool or white stam is not. Okay, so we need to know going to this ISIS that he's not against leadership, it's just in the world of kedusha. Then you have to say, but you want Gevurah to be the main thing, so Moishe is perfect. No, because Moishe's leadership is still chesed. That's the point. And what's his problem with Aaron? So if Aaron would have a bit of chesed in the system, it's okay. But there should be the leadership and dominate Zoisloi. I think it's clear now. I think all the components are clear now. Yeah, anybody has anything to say in the Zoom? Someone close the door there. I'm sure it bothers you as much as me. Okay, yeah, I think this is clear. Yeah, let's summarize the tinus. Let's put it all together, make it clear. Summary. His taina is, he wants to make Gevurah Iker. He's not against a hierarchy, a practical hierarchy. He is against a hierarchy which is in Kedusha, unless it's dominated by Gevurah. That's a good hierarchy. Why? Because since Gevurah is Tzimtzum and Gevul, there's room for everyone. In that dominance of Gevurah, the whole point is to bring out the mile of Gevul. I'm just adding this what the Maimon doesn't say. So again, so he's not against the hierarchy, Stam Bisnasus, but not in Kedusha. So therefore, he'd be okay with Aaron's role of chesed somewhere, but not in a way that dominates. L'chayda, this is what he's saying. As for Moshe Rabbeinu, that's malchus. That's what you want. But no, you see, still the way it is now, it's malchus invested in chesed, so no good. So you can have malchus on lower levels, but not as leadership and not in kedusha, unless it's gevura, which is this whole thing. Yeah. Okay, so now we can understand why he only argues against. He only uses as an argument the talish akuli tcheles. The hine achilish ben tcheles love. The difference between tcheles and love is a tcheles love yakar erech. Tcheles is expensive. Shalachin do aramoy machlifim tcheles bekol ilan. Then we learn the Mishnah, the Gemara, that the deceivers were selling this blue dye, indigo, as a replacement for the tcheles, which comes from the chilazon fish. It's a very rare commodity. Kol ilan means like ashes, ilan of a tree. So they got this blue color from a tree, as opposed to the tcheles that comes from the chilazon fish. We see that it's expensive, even in Pirush Rashi, in something precious. So the reason why it says in Parshas Tzisa, Ani Hashem Lakechem, why at the end they say, I'm Hashem, your Lord Hashem, Tzis, Yeschem Eretz Mitzrayim, what's it have to do here with the mitzvah of Tzitzis at the end of Tzitzis? So Rashi explains from the Medrash. Hashem is saying, I am the one Shevchanti b'Mitzrayim. I differentiated in Mitzrayim between the who's a real firstborn and who's not, the drop of a firstborn who's not. And he also Lavchen, I'm in the future, will then also distinguish will he put into exact retribution someone who hangs literally the blue thread, which is dyed with kol ilan, just an ordinary dye. Indigo, and he'll say that it's tcheles. So that's why. So we see that Hashem has to step in and say, "I will know the difference and punish." Why? Because something people will do because it's very expensive. Not only is it expensive, but more of it begam kedushim yechedes. We see that it's associated with special kedusha. They covered the vessels of the Mikdash in a baguette of tcheles, in a tcheles tapestry. White is not expensive. There's no particular holiness associated with it. Now, that's an interesting thing. And that's the reason it brings it from the Arizal and from the Rebbe Rashab, because there was a whole controversy. There was a Hasidic Rebbe, Chanoich Heinach Leiner, the Rajvina Rebbe, who claimed that he found tcheles. He traveled to Eretz Yisrael and he found it. And he argued that we should use it. He did use it, and people use it till today. And it was a whole controversy in the Torah world. And he was a Rebbe, the Rajina Rebbe, Izbitz Rebbe from the Rajina dynasty.
How long ago was this?
When was it? He died before World War II. Maybe before World War I, he died even. So the Rebbe Rashab came out against him, as many others. It's all basically based on the Arizal, which he's going to say right now. We don't have tchelis, we only have love and keeping straight. We're not, the world isn't ready to receive the special holiness that's revealed by tchelis. The love, but the kedusha associated with love is a lower level, and that we're capable of, like we don't pronounce Hashem's name, same Inyan. So that was the final argument that but he wrote ganze Svardim, and he argued passionately that now's the time, and people are still doing it. But overall, the majority, not just the Chassidish Rebbeim, and even the literature world rejected it. It was a whole polemic at the time. Move on. So now we understand. So when Hashem says you got to put white threads in a talis, and it's not because there's some unique mila in white threads. A white talis doesn't have any virtue. If they're not put together, there's nothing. White threads and the white talus is gone. There's no particular mila. As long as the threads are independent, they don't represent any level of kedusha. When it's become a mitzvah and virtue, which is when you add the white threads. Therefore, he couldn't argue that a white talis should exempt itself. A white talis has no value. It's virtually meaningless. Because the mile of the chuti lovan is not because they're white. The white talis doesn't have any kedusha at all. When you put the two together, that makes something of kedusha. Otherwise, there isn't. But tchelis is standalone. It's standalone kedusha. But it comes to tchelis, Korach argued shatzivu lahatel psil tchelis betalis. Why? It looks like he argued and he was wrong here, but I don't know. That the reason to put tchelis on the talis because of the mile of the blue of the tchelis. Sheyesh b'yoker, it's precious and kedusha. Rashi says it reminds us of the sky, and the sky reminds us is a reflection of the Kisei HaKoved. The color blue is an ethereal color. Because of the sky. Push it simply. So therefore he says, Tchelis is a Kedusha Dike Inyan. We have already, we're wrapped in holiness, wrapped in a white garment, wrapped in nothing. We're wrapped in Tchelis, you're wrapped in holiness. It has already itself inherently this preciousness and holiness. Therefore, what are you bringing? What are you adding? Chutim. Tifteris atzma. It exempts itself. You don't need another tchelis to project from it. So let's conclude here, although the mind leaves us hanging. This is also what he said. Why do you exalt yourself? Now the isnasus is expressed in the threads. So the isnasus in holiness, which he said is unnecessary, because we're all holy, chut cheles, that's what those threads mean. It means isnasus in kedusha. How does it fit exactly with, the idea that it's a tzimtzum? Don't know. Not sure. At any rate, therefore his argument is, we're all holy. We're all wrapped in tcheles. We're all talish. We don't need this nasas further. Okay, mine ends here. Bim bamalun, the hours tomorrow. I'm going to think about this. Just why, look up in the Bekeris, if Hashem will help, why the union of the chutim is isnasus. In Pashtus, because the chutim is saying, for you, anybody else to get this, you've got to be metzamtzim this. So it's conveying the union of isnasus. It conveys isnasus by its very small hamshacha. You can't get it as is. And he's saying, why not? Kulam kedoshim. We're all wrapped in tcheles. We don't have to metzamtzim it. That's the pshat. Where?
22, not going into the ha'ara, but what does the first line end with? Ad kanim of Rishima, what's that Rashi Devash?
Oh, you're looking at the ha'ara?
Yeah,
It's tachas yadeino. That's all we have. That's all we have. But they do give us some interesting things in the Oris, which we'll look at tomorrow. So again, l'chayda, what he's saying here that why is the chutim yinavisnasas? Because the chutim convey that to reveal this, we can only reveal a very limited amount. So it remains, the inyan be'etz remains bisnasas. And there he's saying, so you don't need chutim, because all yidna there. Kulam kedoshim are there. You don't need small amshachas, which removing it from everybody. The only way it can be revealed to us is through threads. So that's the pshat. Okay, we get a general idea, I hope. We'll continue tomorrow.